weeknight dinners, baking, late-night cravings, homemade pizza night, and everything in between. Upgrade to a smarter, healthier way to cook. The Wonder Oven Pro is here.
And we wanted to just have a simple exercise with you this morning to go through just a couple of important facts. There is such a staggering amount of gaslighting and false information that Democrats are engaging in right now. And so we thought it would be useful to just this morning, in a very brief and concise manner, separate fact from fiction. So I'm just going to go through 4 false claims that you have heard over and over and over, and just explain once more what the simple truth is. Meredith, let me see the first slide here. Here's the first one. The obviously false claim of the Democrats is that Republicans have closed the government. I've heard them say this myself. You've all seen it in interviews. They're blaming the shutdown on the Republicans, and it is patently absurd. The next slide will show you the simple fact, the obvious fact that everyone can see. It is Republicans who have voted to open the government 14 times. Now, remember how this came about. Back in September 19th, in the House, Republicans in the House voted to open the government, the clean continuing resolution to keep everything in operation. Every Democrat except one in the House voted to close the government. But we still passed it because we have the majority. And so we sent that bill over to the Senate. And 13 different occasions, 13 times, the Democrats have voted to close the government. Republicans voted yes every time to open it. Republicans in the Senate and the House voted to keep the lights on, to pay service members and our troops who are in harm's way, Border Patrol agents, TSA, air traffic controllers, all federal workers. They voted to ensure that women, infants, and children nutrition programs continue and that SNAP benefits continue to go to the American families who are in need. But by contrast, the Democrats have voted no every single time. And what is outrageous to us is that they have gone onto the Senate floor. Senate Democrats, they have voted no. They have voted to close the government. And then they have gone out to the hall, to the nearest camera they can find. And they have looked into the lens and said, Republicans are shutting down the government. It makes no sense. It's the most extreme example of gaslighting in the history of American politics. And many in the media have allowed them to get away with that. It's shameful. Let me show you another obviously false claim. Obviously false claim number 2 of the Democrats is that Republicans are being unreasonable. Well, here's the fact. Let me see the next one. The fact is very simple. Republicans are refusing to accept the Democrats' outrageous demands. Now, why do we say that? Now, remember, the Republicans passed a clean continuing resolution. It was nonpartisan. It was a simple bill that would open the full government. And we could do that today. If they would pass that today, with 0 strings attached, everything would be flowing again and the government would work. Importantly, remember that we offered that CR in good faith. And why do we say that? Because it was offered after a bipartisan, bicameral negotiation between both chambers. Because you see, you had the appropriators, Republican and Democrat appropriators, who got together and decided, they agreed on the need for a short-term CR so that they could continue their negotiations on the full-year funding bills. But this is something Democrats have spoken passionately about and acted upon many times in the past. We've recounted here every day. 13 different occasions in the Biden administration, they passed continuing resolutions. They did it most recently in March of this year when Chuck Schumer, 10 Senate Democrats, including the leader, Schumer, voted for the CR and told us how important that was. The CR that's on the table right now and has been sitting there for 45 days is nearly identical to the one that they voted on in March. But shockingly, this is the big thing. In addition to their refusal to support the CR and reopen the government, the Democrats have had the audacity to also demand something new. They demanded $1.5 trillion with a T in new spending obligations in exchange for the simple funding resolution. They filed on paper in the Senate record back in September, and it still sits there as their counterproposal. They would spend $1.5 trillion of your taxpayer funds. Included in that is nearly $200 billion of taxpayer funds that they want to use to restore free health benefits to illegal aliens. They want to spend billions in wasteful left-wing spending projects in foreign countries on things like LGBTQ plus awareness, in the Horn of Africa, all sorts of things. I could give you a long list, and we've said it here before. They want to spend $500 million to prop up left-leaning news organizations. And shockingly, in that same proposal, as their ransom for reopening the government, they want to cut $50 billion from the Rural Hospital Fund that the Republicans just got signed into law on July 4th. That is the bill that they filed that shut down the government. And every American can see that for themselves. So their claim about Republicans being responsible is laughable. Let me go to the third one. False claim number 3, Democrats are fighting for health care. You've heard this over and over and over. Let me say something very simply about this false claim. It is the Democrats who created Obamacare. It is the Democrats who did that without any Republican votes. It's the Democrats who, by extension, have cost the American taxpayers and people who have health insurance have made their costs skyrocket. It is their policies that made that happen. And so instead of reforming it, the Democrats don't reform Obamacare. They want to subsidize it. They want to spend more taxpayer dollars. That, by the way, goes mostly to insurance companies, which makes the cost rise further. That's the Democrats' plan. When they passed Obamacare in 2010, they called it the Affordable Care Act. We know the truth is exactly the opposite. By some estimates, premiums have risen 60% in many categories since they passed that bill into law. Now, the fact is the opposite. Republicans are the ones fighting to save health care. Why? It's not just talking points to us. We do this. We have ideas, and we have already implemented ideas and measures to reduce costs, increase access and quality, and eliminate fraud, waste, and abuse. Now, why do we say it's not just a talking point? Why do we say the Republican Party is the only one advancing common sense reform solutions? Because we've proven it.
Are you interested in mushrooms? Do you like drama? You'll love this.
We did that in the big, beautiful bill, the Working Families Tax Cut. We took a look at Medicaid, and we took on that challenge. We took action to reduce fraud, waste, and abuse in Medicaid. We got able-bodied young men without dependents off the program. We got illegal aliens off the program, and we saved $185 billion just to start. We got millions of ineligible enrollees off the program, and it preserved it. It strengthened Medicaid for the people who rely upon it, which is the elderly, disabled, and young pregnant women, as we always use as an example. No, it's not about health care. That is a false claim, and everybody knows it. Everyone in America, and certainly everybody in this room, understands that this is about something else. What this is about fear. The Schumer shutdown was never about health care. That's a distraction. It's a red herring, as we used to say in debate club. Okay? This is about fear. And what is the fear? The resolution on the COVID-era Obamacare subsidy issue was always going to be slated for debate in October, November, and December. Everybody knows that, and every Democrat knows that. It's an issue that's too complex to be solved on a short-term funding measure like a CR. They know that very well. This is about fear. Everybody in the country is watching the elections that will happen tomorrow. You got big elections in New Jersey and Virginia, the governor's races and attorney general's races, et cetera. But all the attention is focused primarily on New York City. Why? Because the fear that Mamdani and all that he represents will be risen to power, that he'll be elected the mayor of America's largest city, the once cradle of capitalism, that we're going to have a Marxist, a communist running the largest city. Now this terrifies the establishment old guard Democrats in Washington. And the leaders of both chambers are among those most terrified. They're both from New York. Leader Hakeem Jeffries is the Democrat in the House, and Leader Schumer in the Senate. They're both from New York, and they're terrified. You've watched their actions carefully. Many of you have not reported on it enough. Poor Hakeem Jeffries had to finally, he was forced to endorse Mamdani. And he's terrified that he now owns the results of that. Chuck Schumer's been dancing around the issue, but he knows he's darned if he does, darned if he doesn't. They're both terrified, and so that is the fear. This is a fact, and you should print it this way. The Schumer and Jeffries and their colleagues fear political retribution from the far-left activists in their party more than they fear the consequences of keeping the government closed for weeks on end. They fear that personally for their own political future, and they care more about that than they care about SNAP benefits flowing to hungry families, about air traffic controllers being paid so they can keep the skies safe, Border Patrol troops, and all the rest. It pales in comparison, and this is a simple summary that is a simple fact. It is extremism on the left that is the direct cause of American suffering right now. One more fact. The obviously false claim number 4 this morning is that Republicans are responsible for all this pain. It's just a nonsensical statement. It's a nonsensical statement because the fact is very clear. This is about math. Republicans need at least 7 Democrats to join us. We only have 53 Republicans in the Senate. It takes 60 votes to reopen the government in the Senate. The House did its job September 19th. We're waiting on the Senate to get this done. Leader John Thune and the Republicans have bent over backwards. They've done everything they can. You saw his frustration and his anger boil up on the floor at the end of last week. A normally calm, pretty steady leader, very steady leader. We're all angry about this because we're sick of what they're doing. They're using the American people as pawns, as leverage, and that is the word that so many of them have used. We could name senator after senator, House member after House member, from the leadership ranks all the way down to rank and file on the Democrat side. They have admitted openly they're using the American people as leverage in this political game. They're motivated out of fear. They want to show a fight to the radical left so they don't lose their political seats, and they're willing to make the American people suffer for it. That is the fact. This is about math. Republicans have to have at least 7 Democrats. We need 5 more. 5 more moderate, centrist, common sense people who care more about the constituents they serve and the country that they supposedly serve than their own political futures and the retribution they'll receive from the Marxist, Mandami, communist left in the party if they do the right thing here. I wish these weren't the facts. I take no pleasure in telling you this. It is disgusting to us. But there's no other way to candy coat this, to make it any prettier than it is. So we're now entering the 5th week of this Democrat shutdown, and it's for one reason. Democrats made a deliberate choice to keep the government closed. The shutdown will only end when those same Democrats make a deliberate choice to open it. The entire country is calling and waiting on just 5 more Senate Democrats to come to their senses and do the right thing. We are pleading with them to do so. This is not a game. The solution is sitting right in front of them. Pass the clean CR, end this madness, and open the government. You'll hear next from our majority leader in the House, Representative Steve Scalise.
This is how VisionMD was born. I'm Dr. Zhu. I'm a Harvard-trained eye doctor and surgeon. I've led clinical research studies on some of the latest advancements in eye care. 1MD Nutrition created a revolutionary formula that supports the stem cells within your eyes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the Democrats continue to impose suffering on the American people, and by the way, that's their term, they've continued to talk about real suffering that they know they're causing. Again, they say to get leverage over what they still can't articulate. But as Democrats continue to impose this suffering, their attempts to mislead the American people are working overtime. The Speaker laid out a number of those statements that Democrats have made over and over again to try to mislead the American people. And it doesn't just end there. Over the weekend, Chuck Schumer tweeted out, quote, Republicans have done everything in their power to raise your health care costs and kill SNAP for millions of hungry Americans. Now, Chuck Schumer knows good and well what he said there is not only misleading, it's patently false. I tried to give it Pinocchio awards, but I don't want to associate the character Pinocchio with Chuck Schumer in that statement. Let's start with the first half of what he said there. Raising health care costs. Who is the party that's done that? The health care law of the land, and not sure if Chuck Schumer's been updated on the law, but Obamacare is the law of the land in health care. And we can all go look at the votes going back the last 10 years. It's been partisan votes all the way through for Obamacare. They called it, as the speaker said, they named it the Affordable Care Act. It's been anything but. Costs for families are up over 80% in their premiums because of Obamacare. And what have they tried to do over and over again? They've tried to mask the cost. They haven't tried to work with Republicans to fix it. They've tried to mask the cost. Hundreds of billions of dollars of bailouts to insurance companies. Not helping families get better options. Democrats have never cared about that. And in fact, when we, as we've pointed out multiple times, passed provisions in the Working Families Tax Cuts, the cost share reductions, that were scored by CBO to lower premiums by double digits. For families. It passed the House, and it was Democrats who worked overtime to get that removed in the Senate. They are still bragging about it today on the Democrat Budget Committee's website, that they removed a provision that would have lowered premiums for families. So who is it that's raising costs for families? Of course it's been Democrats every step of the way, and the only thing scored by CBO to reduce premiums on families that have passed either house, the Democrats worked overtime to get that removed. The other half of that, he talks about SNAP. And of course, we know there have been votes in the House and Senate to save the SNAP program from cuts, from being zeroed out. It's called the Clean CR. Passed the House with Republican-only votes, primarily, with Democrats uniting to try to kill it, but luckily we have the majority in the House, and you go over to the Senate, and we know they have a 60-vote requirement, and Democrats have over and over and over again voted in lockstep with Chuck Schumer to block SNAP benefits. There is a vote you can go look at every day that they've taken that vote that would have opened the government, fully funded SNAP, or shut it down. And it's Republicans who are voting yes, and it's Democrats who are voting no. And Chuck Schumer's been leading that charge. And then he votes no to kill the SNAP program, to create tremendous uncertainty, to create millions of hungry Americans, to use his own word. Chuck Schumer has voted to put those millions of hungry Americans in that situation. And then he walks out to the microphone, as the speaker said, and then he tries to blame it on somebody else. People are sick and tired of it. We're surely sick and tired of it, but the American people are suffering, to use the Democrats' term, while those same Democrats that impose the suffering are going out and trying to mislead and lie to the American people and blame somebody else for the very votes they cast. It is votes in Congress that have caused a government shutdown. That's why we're here. You either vote yes to open the government, or you vote no to keep it shut down. And the votes are public record. And the same people that are voting to shut down the government, to deny food to families, are then walking out and trying to lie to the American people and blame somebody else for their actions. The American people won't have it. The American people will not be lied to. It's time that Chuck Schumer and his Democrat colleagues end this madness. Let's open the government back up again and get to a negotiation on the differences we have. Our whip, Tom Emmer.
Today marks day 34 of the Democrat shutdown. Here are some headlines from over the weekend highlighting the pain the Democrats are inflicting on the American people each day that they prolong this mess. Quote, government workers, SNAP recipients feel the pain as the government shutdown drags on. Quote, staffing shortages mire air travel as shutdown stretches on. Quote, government shutdown threatens to delay home heating aid for millions of low-income families. And that's just to name a few. Democrats have now voted against opening the government 14 times. That's 14 times that they voted against our military. That's 14 times that they have voted against federal law enforcement officers, air traffic controllers, and TSA agents. 14 times they have voted against low-income Americans who rely on programs like SNAP and WIC. Why? Not because they actually care about lowering the cost of health care like they claim. Just look at the 68-page counter-proposal they filed in the Senate. Only 1.5 pages reference health care. The other 66 outline their radical policy priorities like billions of dollars for foreign climate projects or $500 million to prop up leftist media outlets. The fact of the matter is that the Democratic Party is not fighting for you, the American public. They've shut the government down to pick a fight with President Trump and to score points with Kami Mandami and Omar Fada, the Omar Fada wing of their party. The Democrats have become kamikaze politicians who are so focused on winning some kind of political game that they've justified blowing up everything in their wake, including the livelihoods of their own constituents. Democrat Senator John Fetterman said it best on CNN yesterday. Quote, we are hurting the very people that we fight for, and now we're getting nothing for them if we continue to keep our government shut down. Quote, this is wrong, he went on to say, and he's exactly right. It's past time for Democrats to end the political games, pass our clean CR, and reopen the government for the people they were elected to serve. Back to the Speaker.
Questions? Manu, you get it first every time. This is not fair.
Last week, you came here to these mics, and you were very critical of Joe Biden's use of the auto pen, his pardons. You said you didn't even know who he was pardoning. But last night on 60 Minutes, President Trump admitted not knowing he pardoned a crypto billionaire who pleaded guilty to money laundering. Does that also concern you?
I don't know anything about that. I didn't see the interview. You have to ask the president about that. I'm not sure. Yes, ma'am.
Last week on Friday, you said that if there had been a way to fund SNAP, that the Trump administration would be happy to do it. Now, 2 judges have come out saying that it is likely illegal to stop SNAP payments. One is giving the Trump administration until today to make a decision on how to move forward.
The reason we created these initial robots was to solve a pretty basic problem.
What have you told President Trump about how you want him to move forward?
Well, he and I talked about this quite a bit over the weekend, multiple times. The president is desperate for SNAP benefits to flow to the American citizens who desperately rely upon it. He has bent over backwards, as you know, to get the troops paid, to keep WIC funding going. He's found creative solutions. The SNAP situation, as Secretary Rollins and I explained at the press conference on Friday, has legal impediments to that. It was understood, and we got legal advice, and it made sense to me that the contingency fund in SNAP could not be used unless the underlying funds were flowing. As Secretary Rollins relayed to you, this is pretty commonsensical. The contingency fund is an extra in layman's terms, it's an extra fund that is there, for example, if you have an unexpected natural occurrence like a hurricane or something, and SNAP benefits are flowing, but you have a subset of the population that needs additional benefits, then the contingency fund would go. The way we always understood it was the contingency fund could not be used legally if the underlying fund was suspended. And that's what's happened in the CR. The Democrats voted to stop SNAP payments. So you have two courts, two liberal courts, Obama judges, as I understand it, who've said, no, that's not right, get them paid. Well, it's more complicated than that, because as you know, it cost over $9 billion to fund SNAP for a month, and we only have, I think it's $5.2 billion in the contingency fund. So you have a big shortfall. So it's not as easy as hitting go send on a computer. You got to go through and recalculate partial payments to the 42 million recipients of the program. That puts a huge burden on states and on the feds to try to figure that out in short order. So what the president said logically was, okay, Your Honor, if you're saying we can do it, I'll go for that, because I want SNAP to go to the people. It's the Democrats that stopped it, not us. So tell me how to do it. Because I have all my personnel here in the office, the legal minds and the number crunchers, and they're trying to figure out how this can be done. Give us some guidance. We're glad to do it. So that's where we are at this impasse right now. As you noted, the president's not appealing the decision. He wants SNAP to be done, but he doesn't see the mechanism to do it. So you have Treasury, you have USDA, you have the other agencies involved that are working overtime, literally around the clock over the weekend, trying to figure out how to do this. But everybody needs to know it's not the full amount, assuming they could get this done and processed. The court acknowledged, thanks to the president, for saying that they wanted to do it. Everybody's on the same page here. We just don't know how. It's unprecedented. This has never happened before in this way. And so we're hopeful. But I would just say this, looping us back to how we began, the easiest way to get full SNAP payments to everybody who's eligible is for the Democrats to come in here and vote to reopen the government on a clean, nonpartisan CR. It's a game that's being played and real people are being hurt, and the administration gets all sorts of accolades and appreciation from us for bending over backwards trying to make sure people are not feeling the pain and that the harm is mitigated as much as possible. Yes, sir.
Do you agree with President Trump that now is the time to get rid of the Senate filibuster? He's saying it's gone on too long. Let's do the nuclear option.
So I talked to the president multiple times over the weekend, I mentioned, and of course the filibuster came up. This is a Senate matter. It has nothing to do with the House. Everybody wants to know what my opinion is. I mean, my opinion is irrelevant. I understand desperate times call for desperate measures. I also understand that traditionally we've seen that as an important safeguard. I mean, I obviously shared my thoughts with the president on that. As much as I have wanted to blow up the filibuster sometime as a House member when we were not getting what we wanted done in our agenda, I hear my Senate Republican colleagues, some of the most conservative people in Congress, who say it's an important safeguard. It prevents us. It holds us back from the Democrats' worst impulses. What would the Democrats do if they had no filibuster impediment, no speed bump at all? They've already told us. They would pack the Supreme Court. You'd go from 9 to 13 or 15 or 17 or however many liberals they can pack on the court. You would have D.C. and Puerto Rico be made into states, which would give 4 additional Democrat senators there in the count and make us a permanent minority. I guess that would be their calculation. You would see massive restriction of the Second Amendment rights. You'd see them federalize elections so they could take over and manipulate things in the red states. I mean, there's a lot of abuses that could come. And so that's the caveat. That's what they're working through. And I speak frankly and honestly with the president, and he's very passionate about this. We're all very passionate. I think what you see in this debate we're having on our own side is a reflection of the anger that we feel, the real desperation that we feel, because we want the government to be reopened. We want to serve the American people as best we can, and any hindrance to that is something that everybody's looking at very carefully. Again, not a House issue, it's a Senate issue, and we'll see how that's resolved. Chad.
Good morning. Hasn't the ship sailed on the CR? November 21st, that's 18 days. Isn't it time to do something new this week?
We're very mindful of the calendar. We're very frustrated by that. It's part of the reason we're so angry about this, because they're eating up the clock, and the Democrats know how much more we have to do here this year. But we cannot do it if the government's not opened and not serving the people. And so this is a very important matter. It's something that we're giving all of our attention to. Our leaders will go and meet on the calendar right now. We watch it every day. But the simplest way to get all these issues resolved, health care, everything else, to get it all finished up for the year, is for them to reopen the government and make sure people are not hurting instead of Democrats over here playing political games to cover their own backside. I hope the election tomorrow is a change, a sea change in all this. I hope that after everybody votes and they go in their room and they make the calculation that, well, maybe we won't have to hold that line anymore. Maybe they won't punish us. Maybe it won't affect turnout in our states in these elections. Maybe after tomorrow they'll come to their common senses again and do the right thing. We certainly pray that is true. And Republicans will be on the job every single day, serving our constituents, helping guide them through the chaos that the Democrat shutdown has created, and praying that they do the right thing and stop making the American people suffer because of this nonsense. Thank you.
This MAGA Republican completely owned this liberal panelist in this debate. This MAGA Republican completely owned this liberal panelist in this debate.
The problem is that is believed. And we have spent way more time treating Jimmy Kimmel as a victim than the person who was shot and killed in front of their wife and children.
Let me ask you a question. If Joe Biden took down a prominent right-wing personality on TV for what he or she said, would you endorse that?
No, that is literally what the administration that you served did. Your administration deplatformed and kicked off of social media. You want to talk about actually silencing? Having any single public outlet that you have unallowed to broadcast something, right? Jimmy Kimmel could go on MSNBC tomorrow. He's going back on ABC tonight. This man has not been silenced. Charlie Kirk's been silenced because he's dead. A lot of conservatives were silenced on social media platforms because the government threatened those social media companies. Facebook, Google, Twitter, you can go down all the list. YouTube, again, just acknowledged to Congress today that they did that at the behest of the Biden administration.
Scott Jennings went off on this CNN panelist when she said this.
We're dealing with breaking news every day on this, whether it's an ICE facility or whether it's Charlie or whether it's we're in the middle of an issue here where people on the left have decided that speech and debate and elections, that's too slow for me. And they've been radicalized somehow. They're writing messages on bullets. The messages echo exactly what they're being programmed with from the politicians on their side.
I really don't think that's fair. Like, you know, those
they're writing it on the bullets.
Those lawmakers and their dog were shot dead. Democratic lawmakers in this past year. Like that's a bigger problem than.
And after that happened, the United States House convened and unanimously passed a resolution condemning it. And when it happened to Charlie, we had over 100+ Democrats
I know, and I thought it was
voted no,
disgraceful.
voted
And I thought it was disgraceful more than show up to the memorial.
Listen. High school student has been suspended after he wore a Make America Great Again hat to school, which sparked an argument when she was assaulted.
I sense some hostility in that woman's voice when she said, "Make America Great Again" hat. Yeah, I know. She's already triggered.
Zach Hornstein was studying at home Tuesday afternoon instead of in class at Laguna Beach High School. It's the first of his 2-day suspension for harassment, something he says he didn't do.
Oh, he's harassing people because he's wearing the MAGA hat. That is crazy. They see him as the instigator. He's harassing them walking down the hallway in school wearing a Make America Great Again hat. Yeah. That is nuts. Yeah.
Last Thursday, he was wearing a Make America Great Again hat, he says in honor of Charlie Kirk. A girl pulled his hat off and threw it in the trash. Then, he says, she started using profanity to describe President Trump.
I made a joke towards them when I said, if you don't like it here, Canada's open borders, feel free to go.
If you don't like it here, Canada has open borders? He's definitely a Trump supporter.
Zach's mom, Janet, feels the school is targeting her son because of his political beliefs.
Personally, I wouldn't want my kids wearing anything to school. Politically inclined. Yeah, exactly. You got to think ahead because they could use that against your son.
And yet, in the other poll, on issues, Trump still winning. So this is your big opportunity, Democrats. He's down in the numbers, and you still can't score. When they ask who has a better plan, Republicans crushing it on crime, immigration. And yet, in the other poll, on issues, Trump still winning. So this is your big opportunity, Democrats. He's down in the numbers, and you still can't score. When they ask who has a better plan, Republicans crushing it on crime, immigration, wars, the economy, even corruption. Democrats win by 2 points on respect for democracy. Now, some of this is just because people are fucking stupid. 2 points on respect for democracy. Democrats win on health care, environment, women's rights, respect for democracy. But on those issues, I bet you that are the big ones that they vote on more: crime, immigration, wars, economy, corruption. So that's the takeaway there.
The only thing the Democratic Party stands for today is opposition to Donald Trump.
And because what economic policy? His kids don't deserve to have a dad? What, because he doesn't think that kids should be given puberty blockers? And because he has the balls to go out and say it?
He has some big fucking balls to go out there and do it, because a lot of people wouldn't dare step in front of a bunch of leftists and say the stuff that he says to try to change their mind.
Opposed to from behind a news desk? Now, this is a changing moment, because that could be, I mean, it could be any of us on a laundry list of people.
They bring her into these conversations and they underestimate her.
I haven't even finished the sentence. Started with some bullshit.
It was her and Killer Mike. It was a panel, thought leaders in the black community, and she was on it. Killer Mike was on it.
When you say make America great again, which period are we talking about? The period when women couldn't vote? The period when we were hanging from trees? I'll answer your question. Which period was America great that we're trying to replicate?
Candace's very smart. I don't agree with her on some of the things she says, but she's very intelligent.
You are being used, abused, and lied to and manipulated emotionally by the Democrat Party. That is what I am here to tell you. You want to keep uprising and talking about racism when they're taking our fathers out of the home?
Killer Mike adds context to T.I. and Candace Owens' Revolt Summit.
You're making light of... No, I'm not. I haven't gotten to my point.
Diddy was, I think, in the front row. Just I'm going to get accused of being a racist.
I think Candace has a problem with the crowds cheering for me and booing to her. That's not my fault. That's not my intention. I don't like when you go for gotcha moments. Like, oh, well, you started with some bullshit. Actually, let me get to what I was going to say. We're all losing when you do something like that. Everybody loses when you go for a gotcha. You want to hype a crowd. Oh, it's racism.
How many cities burned after Charlie was assassinated? How many violent things happened? If he was actually
black students were lynched on campus.
What campus did this occur on? At what college were these students attending?
Violent things happened after he died. Yeah, don't look like you're...
Black students were lynched on a campus?
Yeah, there were people hung from trees on campuses.
Campuses, plural. So this has happened on multiple campuses, according to her. And we just need to read the news to find out, okay?
So maybe read the news.
Okay. But you won't get the tweet.
Why would anyone lynch a black person on the campus for shooting Charlie? It was a white person who shot Charlie.
This doesn't even make logical sense.
That's such a good question. No, and that's such a good question.
And that's wrong. First of all, that didn't happen.
It didn't happen?
No, it didn't. And that's why this video is worth making, because this is like another level of insanity.
Did not happen. Just like how Charlie wasn't a Nazi.
So the students start scrambling, trying to Google on their phones to back this up.
Just like how Charlie didn't advocate for violence.
Let's see if they do.
All human beings have unique value and right to life. They're all valuable. So lynching humans for any reason,
I guess she didn't find anything.
in any time period of our human history, has always been wrong.
Just think about how cognitively lost you have to be to believe stories like that without any evidence to back them.
I was invited and I came here with my passport.
Yeah, this brother isn't even American, so I don't know what the hell he's chanting USA for. I'll chant USA, not you. Who the hell is this guy?
You asked me why I am in US now. Because I was invited and I came here with my passport. And I came here because I used to live under communism. My country was under communism. And Reagan with John Paul II freed our country. And I will be always grateful to the Republicans of the United States for the freedom of Poland and Europe. My presence here in America is my way to pay respect.
So growing up in Chicago,
I was invited and I came here with my passport.
Yeah, this
So growing up in Chicago, I would hear from lots of people, hey, you know Obama's gay, right? You know Obama's gay. And I was like, come on, that's not true. The media's not covering it. The more I started to look around, people I really trust said, Charlie, Obama's part of that club in Chicago, and he has sex with men. And I was like, oh, whatever. And then all of a sudden, it started to grow more and grow more. And now, after all these years, the question is, was Obama the first ever gay president?
I just started rubbing my hand along his thigh to see where it was going, and it went the direction I had intended it to go.
Even though you had sex with him twice, you did cocaine with him, watched him smoke crack twice.
It definitely wasn't Barack's first time, and I would almost be willing to bet you it wasn't Islam.
Just wait until the media comes out and they say, it doesn't matter. What has he been hiding this entire time? Is his marriage a sham?
You're telling me that you're going to fake some terrorist thing just to scare some money out of Congress?
Well, unfortunately, Mr. Hennessy, I have no idea how to fake killing 4,000 people. So we're just going to have to do it for real. Oh, blame it on the Muslims, naturally. Then I get my funding. Killing 4,000 people. So we're just going to have to do it for real. Oh, blame it on the Muslims, naturally. Then I get my funding.
You're telling me that you're going to fake
terrible. And of course there will be, you know, families that are going to suffer. We take that responsibility very seriously, but it is one of the few leveraged times we have.
Republicans are slamming the number 2 House Democrat for calling a government shutdown a key leverage point for the left. Minority Whip Catherine Clark of Massachusetts told a media outlet that while shutdowns are awful and families will suffer, it's one of the few times Democrats have real leverage. She said they take the responsibility seriously, but it's a rare opportunity in this funding fight. Republicans quickly pounced, accusing Democrats of celebrating the chaos to appease their radical left base. The White House even put out a statement charging that Democrats aren't just ignoring the fallout, they're cheering it on. House Speaker Mike Johnson's office looped Clark's interview on a TV right outside his door. Johnson's been blasting Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer for weeks over his comment that every day of the shutdown gets better for Democrats. Republicans are calling it the Schumer shutdown, now the second longest in history after passing 3 weeks. Other Democrats, like Senator Martin Heinrich, have echoed the idea, saying certain bills give the president more leverage. The House passed a short-term funding bill, but it's stuck in the Senate needing 60 votes with no negotiations in sight. Schumer is holding his caucus together to forge a deal on healthcare demands while the House stays out of session to ratchet up the pressure.
Shutdowns are terrible, and of course there will be, you know, families that are going to suffer. We take that responsibility very seriously, but it is one of the few leveraged times we have.
Policies, 1.5. I mean, based on her policies, $1.5 trillion. She must be bilingual. She's speaking English and stupid. There's no way we're going to go along with this, and that's why we're in a shutdown.
You know, coming from Georgia, I'm still learning English myself, so I can at least respect that about her. Listen, you got this bill, 7 weeks. This is a kind of a yes or no answer. We got to rush here.
Sure.
If you get 7 weeks, can you get the budget passed through appropriations? Or is it just going to be kicking the can again?
Yes, I think we could.
I still can't believe CNN let this air.
2024 election fried our brains. The Democrats couldn't hold a primary because they were too busy holding a body upright. It was amazing that the pro-choice party didn't give their voters one when it came to the presidential candidate. Kamala was forced on us so hard you'd think she was patented by Pfizer. Damn!
The idea that people would get here as immigrants and immediately join a violent street protest? And you start to wonder, like, maybe we were actually invaded. Maybe our ruling class imported an army and pretended that they were migrants looking for a better life. And maybe we're about to find out what that means. This is really scary. They don't know how many people live here, and they don't know who they are. Of course, they have biometrics they could find out, but they haven't. Why is that? So if all of a sudden these migrants are participating in street protests where they're throwing bricks through the windows of passing cars, picking up orange cones and throwing them at minivans, you could see this getting completely out of control. And it's a reminder of something that is very often true, which is civil wars become race wars. It was true in Latin America. It was true in El Salvador. It was true across Latin America. That could happen here. Somebody needs to get this under control before it does.
San Francisco judge lets out 91 times felon.
You have an individual who had committed 91 felonies, and they had been let out again to get a second chance, a third chance, a fourth chance, and they ended up stealing a car and killing 2 innocent women.
McAllister was on parole at the time. Grant is pursuing the motion for McAllister and says he would receive treatment for an underlying condition.
Now this is just the sweetest wallet I've ever seen. GPS trackable, trigger engage.
But now the producer steps in. Look out, Whoopi. And she's not happy about it.
Pointing stuff out. When I'm making jokes, you know when I'm making. Making jokes. This is ridiculous.
Stupid.
Anywho,
This is embarrassing.
the hardest thing about this job now.
Clinton Jaws, baseball's.
We are now approaching the longest shutdown in American history.
Democrats' fault. I mean, the Republicans are voting almost unanimously to end it, and the Democrats keep voting against ending it. They've lost their way. They become crazed lunatics. And all they have to do, Nora, is say, let's vote.
Wednesday or Thursday of this week, the Democrats will wait until after Election Day because they think a shutdown is good for energizing the crazies in their party.
Deeply distressing to know that 42 million Americans are going to lose their SNAP benefits. I feel like the Democrats really need to own the shutdown.
And you've seen now the avalanche of people and organizations and institutions calling on the Democrats to reopen the government and vote for the clean CR. You got labor unions, you got the largest airlines in America, you got independent voters. Working class Americans across the country, they are all pleading with the Democrats to do their job and stop using their hardships, the people's hardships, for the Democrats' political games in Washington.
That was President Trump, Senators Ted Cruz, Democrat Senator John Fetterman, Speaker Johnson. On this, there is a growing backlash against the Democrat Party. Democrats are waiting to reopen the government, lawmakers say, this week because Democrats want to use potential election wins tomorrow to save face. But the backlash is growing against Democrats. A new Pew poll, 75% of all Americans are frustrated with the Democrat Party. And a new ABC Ipsos poll, 68% of U.S. voters believe Democrats are out of touch. Joining us now, Senator Roger Marshall from Senate Budget. It's great to see you, Senator, again. What's your reaction to what you heard? So the Democrats say it's okay to use shutdown as a leverage to ram through what they couldn't get in regular legislative order as Americans suffer? And is it true that they're waiting until after Election Day? Is that how to run a government?
Well, certainly the Democrats are using children's lunch money as leverage to get their $1.5 trillion of additional funding. Remember what this is all about, to me, is addressing the biggest problem our country faces, and that's our national debt. But the Democrats want to add $1.5 trillion to that. This week they're leveraging SNAP funding to do just that.
Okay, so the Hill newspaper reports that at least 8 centrist moderate Senate Democrats are meeting to stop the shutdown. Is that true? Because half of the nation's major airports are now suffering from severe delays due to worker shortages as we head into Thanksgiving. Is this true that their centrist Democrats were showing them that they want to stop the shutdown?
Well, look, I think there's lots of serious talks. I don't want to go on record one way or the other, but I do think we're reaching an inflection point. As you pointed out, air traffic control has missed their second paycheck. Funding for infants formula ran out this weekend. SNAP's kind of been on and off. It sounds like a judge has given them a 2-week reprieve. There's about $5 billion of emergency disaster money that the judge is asking to use towards this Schumer disaster of shutting down the government. So I do think we're almost there, almost at an inflection point. You can see some of the Democrats throwing up Hail Marys now.
Okay, so we want to show you this video and get your reaction. This video that resurfaced that shows former President Obama saying, don't do government shutdowns, it's irresponsible. It's basically trying to blackmail the other party. That's what the Democrat Party's now. Facing accusations of that. Watch this.
Think about this. Shutting down the government just because you don't like a law that was passed and found constitutional. No Congress before this one has ever in history been irresponsible enough to threaten default, to threaten an economic shutdown, to suggest America not pay its bills just to try to blackmail a president into giving them some concessions. We're not going to submit to this kind of total irresponsibility. Congress needs to pay our bills on time. Congress needs to pass a budget on time. Congress needs to put an end to governing from crisis to crisis. If Republicans do not like the law, they can go through the regular channels and processes to try to change it. That's why we have elections. You do not threaten the full faith and credit of the United States of America.
So isn't that exactly what Democrats are doing? Why is Barack Obama silent about what he said years ago? This is exactly the accusations that's now being leveled against Democrats. Your word on this.
Yeah, Liz, well, certainly the shoe's on the other foot now, right? And even just think, so Barack Obama, a liberal Democrat, Chuck Schumer, a liberal Democrat, but the Democrat Party has left them. They're now being controlled and ran by a far left extreme, and the legacy media is right there complicit as well, that they love this story. They don't want to be talking about President Trump's victories in China and the great trade agreements he's getting done, that the border's secure, that our families are safer, the price of gasoline's going down. Instead, they want to focus on this particular issue, hold our children hostage over their food. It's just a different Democrat Party today. The tail's wagging the dog. I'm not sure Barack Obama could win a primary today.
All right, Senator Roger Marshall.
This showerhead does much more than normal showerheads. If you haven't bought it yet, please take two.
Now it's time for Lefties Losing It, and I love starting the show with world-class hypocrites, and there are none better than hopelessly out-of-touch celebrities, whether they're Hollywood stars or singers like Billie Eilish.
Love you all, but there's a few people in here that have a lot more money than me. And If you're a billionaire, why are you a billionaire? No hate, but yeah, give your money away, shorties. Love you guys.
Billy, why stop at billionaires? Your net worth is reportedly well north of 50 million US. Why? Why haven't you given it all away? Why are you charging more than $100 for the cheapest tickets to your concerts? Don't you have enough? Poor dim-witted hypocrite Billy has been sharing her daft political ideas for several years now. Remember this back in 2020, campaigning for the Democrats. She seriously thought Joe Biden was the saviour. Lord.
You don't need me to tell you things are a mess. Donald Trump is destroying our country and everything we care about.
Let's check in now with the world's biggest victim and gaslighter, Michelle Obama. This is really too much, even by her poor me standards.
You said we were all too aware that as a first black couple, we couldn't afford any missteps.
Yeah.
And you also say, as a black woman, I was under a particularly white hot glare. Did you feel that?
For sure. You can't afford to get anything wrong because you didn't get at least until the country came to know us, we didn't get the grace that I think some other families have gotten.
The truth is the Obamas weren't treated like other first couples. They were treated a lot better. It was endless adulation. And on the rare occasions when there was some criticism from a couple of conservatives in the media, well, the rest of the media mob would be there to defend the couple, to attack anybody who would dare criticise this pair. You want to talk about lack of grace? Look at how Melania is treated. Michelle had how many Vogue covers? Talking about gaslighting, let's go to Lefties Losing It Regular now, the woman who is among the most vile creatures to ever feature on MSNBC, and that is a crowded field, folks. Here is Jennifer Welch with an ugly diatribe against Riley Gaines. A genuine women's rights warrior is Riley Gaines, who has campaigned to keep male bodies out of female sports, and she has been attacked for that work every day. Attacked by the likes of this bitter banshee.
One thing I want to say about Riley Gaines, as she sits there and has the moral high ground against AOC, when I look at people, if I were to say who's more Christ-like, I would pick AOC and the atheist Jew Bernie Sanders and the Muslim Zoran Mamdani a million times over you, Riley Gaines, because Riley Gaines, all you do is hate on people. You are wound up like a cheap clock over trans people. You show them no grace, no compassion.
Yes, Riley Gaines is the one who lacks grace. Well done, Jennifer. Another sane take from you. Remember last week she was championing crazy women who wanted conservatives to be shot dead? Yes, so much compassion, so much grace. That rant might be aimed at Riley Gaines, but it really would be better aimed at a mirror. Every accusation is a confession.
And then you have the audacity to get on television and try to lecture people who fight for the people that are suffering, that stand and put their arms around people that need sanctuary, and you try to act like you're better than they are. You're an insufferable. Nobody likes you, and no matter what, you will always have been the dumb that tied for 5th place.
In the mirror, Jennifer, repeat it into a mirror until you develop a soul, you delusional, lying, bile-filled lunatic. Now let's get back to daft celebrities, this time from the acting world. And here is a turkey campaigning for Christmas. Here is Mandy Patinkin campaigning for Zoran Mamdani. He wants him to not just take over New York City, but also America and then the world.
We are going to win this because we have this extraordinary human being who is going to lead our city and eventually, if we're really thinking, our nation and the world to a better, safer, all-inclusive existence. And that's what I love about this guy.
You know, someone in Kamala Harris's team needs to have a word with her. Needs to have a serious talk with the former vice president about doing interviews after happy hour. I mean, this is just unedifying.
Are you kidding me? This guy wants to create a ballroom for his rich friends while completely turning a blind eye to the fact that babies are going to starve when the SNAP benefits end in just hours from now? Come on. So what? I'm not going to be distracted by, oh, does the guy have a big hammer? What about those babies?
Now, what is truly disturbing about Kamala Harris, other than the gross incompetence, the pathological lying, the wine mum bravado, is the fact that she apparently believed her own propaganda. She believed the fake news, the discredited polls that said she was going to win. The woman was delulu.
I was in a state of shock.
Really? Did you think the day before that you were going to win the election? Yeah. And so when did the proverbial penny drop?
When I got a call from my campaign manager that it looks like we need 200,000 more votes that we can't find. Meaning it's just the map, the numbers. And the thing I kept saying over and over again, I was in a state of shock. I was so inarticulate, but maybe very articulate. What I kept saying over and over again is, my God, my God, my God.
Really?
Over and I couldn't stop.
Joining me now is Newsweek Senior Editor-at-Large and Article 3 Project Senior Counsel Josh Hammer. Josh, Kamala was so inarticulate and she was also very articulate. Work that out. She can't even recount that story in an articulate way, but she really thought she was going to win this.
Yeah, Rita, Kamala Harris not being articulate. When have we heard or seen that before? Oh, yeah, we've seen that or heard that literally every single time Kamala Harris gets behind a microphone or in front of a camera. I mean, where in the world would she have gotten this notion that she was going to win the election, win all the swing states? I don't know. I mean, just thinking about myself, yours truly, on my last podcast episode prior to the election, Rita, I said Trump's going to win all 7 swing states. Not to pat my own back too hard, but you know, it wasn't like that hard to see coming, honestly, because the trends were getting very, very similar to 2016. Back in 2016, Trump was still trailing in the Real Clear Politics average, all the polling averages going into the election versus Hillary, but he was trending in the right direction there. And if you kind of looked in the second, third layer polling data, you could see indications that he was on the precipice of a monumental victory. So too was he actually even more obvious, I would say, in 2024. So look, this is just a classic example of Kamala Harris, as we've seen from so many other Democratic politicians here in the U.S., of just getting high on their own supply, of getting advice and guidance from their advisors and their consultants who are deep in the bowels of blue check Twitter, or I guess these days on Blue Sky. They're not even on Twitter, but they're so far deep in the weeds of their own echo chamber, they don't even know how to find reality anymore. And that is the current state of the Democratic Party in a nutshell. Kamala Harris is just a high-profile example, I think, of their woeful state.
Well, Kamala remains a contender, incredibly, for 2028. And on the other side, we've got J.D. Vance. He continues to impress the Republican base, and that Republican base is now the MAGA base. Listen to this chant for the vice president.
Not even halfway done. So here's I don't know what you're saying, but it sounds awesome. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, ladies and gentlemen.
Are they right, Josh? Is he 48? Does anyone have a realistic hope of unseating him as the next Republican presidential candidate?
Well, as of right now, Rita, I think that he is the extremely early, extremely preliminary front runner, but it's very, very, very far from a shoe. And I actually was just looking at some recent polling data for the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, and the one poll that I saw from NBC News had his approval rating currently at 39%, 45% disapprove. That's still a lot of folks who neither approve nor disapprove. They probably don't have an opinion one way or the other, but he is, you know, under 40% on the approval. So I think it's very far from a shoo-in. He certainly is very popular, I think, with large swaths of the MAGA base. But I think it's going to be a competitive primary for what it's worth. I think that at least one, possibly other current Trump cabinet members will probably enter the fray. Marco Rubio is the name that is most often mentioned. I would not be surprised, frankly, to see someone else, maybe even a Pete Hegseth, a Scott Bessent. I mean, I would not be surprised to see some former governors, some current senators. Maybe it's a Ron DeSantis, a Ted Cruz. I don't know what it is, but I don't think that J.D. Vance is gonna skate this thing through. I think it's actually going to be a very competitive primary there. There's a lot of time left, right? I mean, this administration's barely started. We're less than 1 year into this 4-year administration there. So the vice president has a lot of time to leave a lasting impression on the voters when it comes to domestic policy, when it comes to foreign policy there. I would like to see him really kind of hone in on certain areas there. He should pick, I think, in my judgment, he should pick a couple issues to really make his issue, own that issue, and show to the American people how you can lead the way on one issue as a precursor of how you can then lead the country more generally on all the issues.
Well, you know what? I'm going to go early. I think I'm going to go and put a sizable bet on him because to me he's the perfect politician, and thus far as VP he hasn't put a foot wrong. But as you said, it's early days. We're not even a year into this administration. Now we've got to talk about something that should be getting a lot more coverage around the world, and that's the slaughter of Christians continuing in Nigeria and other parts of Africa. The images, the videos of the slaughter are harrowing, horrific, too horrific to put to air. President Donald Trump has announced he is designating Nigeria as a country of particular concern. He wrote, Christianity is facing an existential threat in Nigeria. Thousands of Christians are being killed. Radical Islamists are responsible for this mass slaughter. I am hereby making Nigeria a country of particular concern. Josh, the president emphasised that action must be taken, but what will that action look like?
Well, that remains to be seen. I think that's very much a question that the American people are currently curious about. Rita, for what it's worth, personally, I've been following the story for many, many years now. Boko Haram is one of the world's most brutal Islamic terrorist organizations. They are just as brutal as ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Hamas, you name it. And they control large swaths. They have effective day-to-day territorial control of maybe not large swaths of Nigeria, but decent swaths of the country. And it's a massive, massive problem for the beleaguered and besieged Christian population in those areas. There have been anti-Christian pogroms. There have been massacres. By the way, Nigeria is actually far from the only country in Africa that has this horrific concern.
Oh, yes.
In Egypt, which in theory is a major American ally, there have been all sorts of horrific slaughters of the local native Coptic Christians over the past 5, 10, 15 years. And then further down the African continent, you have the Congo, Rwanda. There was a horrific slaughter of Christians in the Congo a few months back. I actually remember talking about it with Charlie Kirk before he passed away. Terrible, terrible stuff. This happens all too often, frankly, on the African continent. Nigeria is interesting because Nigeria, of all the African countries, actually has one of the more advanced economies. So in theory, this should not be happening. It shouldn't be happening anywhere, to be clear, but it definitely should not be happening in a country in Africa that is slightly more purportedly developed like Nigeria. I mean, look, I don't think that the American people want boots to go in the ground or anything like that there, but surely there are at least some leverage tools that we can do when it comes to diplomacy and trade policy, tariffs, things like that, trying to make sure that the government actually gets a monopoly on the use of force over Boko Haram, the radical Islamist terrorist organization.
You mentioned a number of countries there, and Sudan also is just seeing mass slaughter of innocent people, a real genocide, absolutely horrific images coming out of Sudan as well. But on Nigeria, let's hear a cry for help from a Christian in Nigeria.
America, please stand for us. We are dying. America, save our land. Yesterday, one of my colleagues, Reverend, was slaughtered with his wife and his children.
Josh, some of the vision we've seen is among the most horrific savagery you can imagine. Mothers holding their terrified children, begging for mercy, and all of them killed, people buried alive, hacked to death, beheaded, hanged from trees, just savagery that is subhuman. Why isn't every world leader speaking out about this? The UN, the Pope, with this Christian slaughter. Why isn't this top of mind for the international community?
Well, it probably should be, right? But there are two things that come to mind. One is that thinking about foreign policy doctrines more generally and thinking from an American perspective, Rita, the whole MAGA, America First, nationalist foreign policy doctrine is one that is not based in humanitarian concerns. It is not the foreign policy of Barack Obama when he intervened in Libya to topple Muammar Gaddafi to save the native population. It's not the foreign policy, of course, of George W. Bush and the neoconservatives either. It is a very realist national interest, pinpick strike, go in, bomb the crap out of them and get the heck out kind of foreign policy. So humanitarian concerns, while they genuinely tear at the heartstrings, it is not front and center, I think, of how the median Trump voter, how the median MAGA Republican necessarily thinks of foreign policy. But the other reason that comes to mind, Rhea, especially when we're talking here about humanitarian concerns, when we're talking about slaughters, accusations, whether they're real or perceived, of genocide there, is that, as the popular saying on social media goes, no Jews, no news. I mean, I think a lot of the folks that really should be outraged, that they should be outraged over the horrific slaughter of Christians by Boko Haram, I think are simultaneously too busy. They've been too busy just accusing Israel of committing genocide for the past 2 years there. So there's definitely some truth to that as well. But, putting on my proverbial MAGA hat, thinking as a Donald Trump voter myself, I think that a lot of folks here just don't think about foreign policy in ultra humanitarian terms. But I mean, these videos just genuinely just break your heart, and something surely has to be done in some capacity in some way.
Well, let's hear from a man who survived the Islamists. He survived Boko Haram, and he had this to say about life as a Christian in Nigeria.
I want to thank and applaud the United States of American President Donald Trump for designating Nigeria as a CPC, because this is one of the things that we have always wanted. Nigeria is the worst place to be as a Christian, like the worst place in the whole of the world to be as a Christian, because you wake up every day with news of killings, every day with news of massacring of Christians. It's totally a genocide that is happening here in Nigeria.
Josh, as you just explained, Americans don't want to be involved in forever foreign wars or wars without clear objectives. And MAGA is about America first, but we are talking here about Christians being slaughtered for being Christian. No. Do you think there would be support for some sort of military action by the US in this particular case?
I think that Donald Trump could probably sell it if he were to build the political capital and kind of sell it as some sort of limited operation. I guess the obvious question is, what kind of limited operation would that be? I mean, let's think back to the Iran strikes back in June. That was literally a 37-hour affair from when the B-2 bombers left Missouri, flew half around the world to Iran, flew back. The whole thing took, literally less than 2 days. So I'm not sure exactly what that would look like here. I'm a little skeptical that anything along those lines could be done. Here's what I will say. I mentioned earlier, you have the possibility of sanctions, the international diplomacy, tariff policy, all the tools of diplomatic and economic statecraft I think can and should be applied to the Nigerian government to get their freaking act together and to send Boko Haram packing to the pits of hell, frankly, there. Another thing that I think can probably should be done, and this might be controversial actually within kind of the MAGA base, is, a lot of Republicans are very skeptical when it comes to refugee and asylum policy, and rightfully so, to be clear, because it has been systemically incredibly abused for decades and decades here in the U.S., all sorts of fraudulent kind of economic asylum seekers and so forth there. But there are cases of legitimate asylum. There absolutely are cases of legitimate refugees. The Trump administration has gone above and beyond to try and make sure that the white Afrikaners down in South Africa, who are literally being oppressed by the anti-white racist government in South Africa, they've made sure that those folks know that they potentially have a home if they want to come to the U.S. there. So too, I think, should Christians literally getting slaughtered by Boko Haram in Nigeria. In my opinion, they should be absolutely eligible. If they are on the cusp of being slaughtered, in my mind, Rita, putting on my immigration law hat, that means any definition of asylum refugee status under U.S. immigration law.
Well, yeah, that is a genuine asylum seeker, certainly not an economic migrant in what we're seeing there. Now, before you go, a left-wing podcaster, Kyle Kulinski, is being denounced online on social media. He is copying it for posting a meme that depicted Charlie Kirk's wife, Erica, as and I quote, fake grieving widow grifter. And he is not alone here, Josh. He's among thousands online on social media who are attacking Erica for everything from her choice of clothing to how she hugs people. It's all rather sick. Where do you think this is coming from, Josh? This fervour to attack a grieving widow?
Well, I think it's pretty simple, Rita. Is they hate Charlie. They hate Charlie Kirk. They hate what he stood for. They hate what he built. They hate the organization that he built. They hate the movement that he led. They hate everything about him. And, you know, by vicarious extension, they therefore hate his grieving widow as well. By the way, I mean, Erica Kirk has been thrust into the national spotlight. She was named the CEO and chairman of Turning Point USA. I believe it's also a matter of public knowledge that Erica Kirk's mother is also in very poor health. So in addition to just losing the love of her life, her husband and the father of her 2 young children, her mother's in poor health. I mean, just leave the freaking woman alone. I mean, my God. I mean, what? At some point, like, literally, what is wrong with you? I mean, there is such a deranged level of inhumanity and just lack of compassion for our fellow human beings that I think has taken hold of so many people on the left, Rita, here. The polls that I see day in and day out these days are just absolutely disgusting. The percentage of Democrats or self-described left-wingers who support some form of political violence, who say that shouting down or physically harming speakers to prevent them from speaking might be necessary, whether it's this with Erica Kirk, it's disgusting. It is literally disgusting. And it's no accident that you have, therefore, people on the right who are saying, do I really have enough in common with these people where they are my fellow countrymen? And not to put too fine a point on it, but when you start to ask those kind of questions, Rita, you have a
Josh Hammer, thank you so much for your time tonight. Welcome back. Joining me now, celebrity and royal commentator Kinsey Schofield. Kinsey, actor Harrison Ford has lashed out at Donald Trump over his opposition to the climate change agenda, calling him the greatest criminal in history. Yes, he really said that. Apparently, securing the border and imposing tariffs is worse than Hitler. Ford told The Guardian Trump doesn't have any policies. He has whims. It scares the SRHIT out of me, the ignorance, the hubris, the lies, the perfidy. Trump knows better, but he's an instrument of the status quo and is making money hand over fist while the world goes to hell in a handbasket. It's unbelievable. I don't know of a greater criminal in history. He's losing ground because everything he says is a lie. Kinsey, sounds like the Hollywood has-been needs his loved ones to step in and offer some support. Tell him to stop saying stupid things to The Guardian. I mean, fancy saying Donald Trump doesn't have any policies. Now, you may disagree with those policies, but he certainly has policies, and that's why the left hate him, because he's actually implementing those policies. And a lot of what he says seems to be the mad ravings of a first-year art student. Isn't he too old for this?
Yeah, well, I mean, thankfully for Ford, The Guardian is like Trump derangement syndrome HQ. So like he found his target audience. But to say that Trump's polling like the highest that I've ever seen him poll since I've monitored this. First of all, I don't trust grown men that pierce their ears. They've already proven that their judgment is questionable. Every time I see the holes in Harrison Ford's ears, my body literally rejects it. But the greatest criminal in history, open a history book, Harrison Ford. Tyrants usually don't waste their time freeing hostages, or at least trying to create peace.
That's it. What have we got? 8 or 9 peace deals in his second term, greatest criminal in history. I mean, really, Harrison Ford, what an absolute idiotic buffoon you are. But let's go to another celebrity, Nicki Minaj. She's getting intense backlash from the left because she supported Donald Trump's decision to list Nigeria as a country of particular concern over Islamist attacks against Christians. Nicki Minaj wrote on X, "This made me feel a deep sense of gratitude. We live in a country where we can freely worship God. No group should ever be persecuted for practicing their religion. Thank you to the president and his team for taking this seriously. God bless every persecuted Christian. Let's remember to lift them up in prayer." I mean, who could possibly read that and be upset? I mean, how utterly deranged with hatred for Donald Trump must you be that you can't acknowledge the fact that there are women and children being slaughtered just because they're Christian? That is something that deserves the US president's attention. And finally, we've got a world leader who's taking note of this horrible, horrible campaign that's happening in Nigeria.
Well, thankfully, Nicki Minaj is in a fight with someone new every week, so she can hold her own. But the reaction to her message will make you question humanity if you sit back and read some of those reactions to the tweets. Like you said, imagine attacking someone viciously for applauding, protecting Christianity, and they're taking personal swipes at her, and blaming her for things that are just, totally unrelated to what she's trying to say. That we we should be proud of the country that and the president we have based on our freedom to worship. So I can't tell you anything other than the fact that I'm so thoroughly disappointed in humanity, and I wish that they would take a moment to log off the internet and just do some self-reflection.
You know what? It's borderline demonic when you read some of those comments, because these comments are being posted on social media, which is the same platform where you can see the horrific torture and slaughter of innocent people, and they disregard that and decide to attack people for acknowledging what's happening. Now, let's talk about the royals. The UK government has announced it will move to strip the man formerly known as Prince Andrew of his honorary title of Vice Admiral. That was his last remaining military rank. Andrew was stripped of his other honorary military titles by his mother, the late Queen Elizabeth. That was back in 2022. And importantly, Kinsey, he's no longer a prince.
That's true. I mean, what a whirlwind week that was last week in London. I was in bed and everybody was like, you got to get out of bed. You got to get out, run across the street. Prince Andrew just lost his titles. I feel like I thought it would be, I thought it would come inevitably, but I thought it was going to be much more difficult than this. And to be fair, the palace made it sound like there were going to be hoops that they were going to have to jump through. And I mean, the reality is we see how easy it's been for them to just strip him of all of these titles and all of these honors. Harry and Meghan should be shaking in their boots now that we've seen how easy it can be. But it's interesting because I've seen a series of different reports about who ultimately was the one that put the hammer down. Was it Queen Camilla? Was it Catherine, the Princess of Wales? In some articles, it's Prince William, because he did not want to inherit the Andrew problem. At the end of the day, everyone wanted it done, wanted this to be over with. And it was King Charles. He's the boss. No one else made that decision and couldn't but him.
Now, the president has weighed in on this issue. Let's hear from Donald Trump.
I feel very badly. I mean, it's a terrible thing that's happened to the family. That's been a tragic situation. And it's too bad. I mean, I feel badly for the family.
There you go, Kinsey. The president feels badly for the family, but they've got a bit more to worry about, because what's Sarah Ferguson going to do next? Royal expert Amanda Platel has said that Andrew Mountbatten, Windsor's ex-wife, it just sounds weird to call him that, but that's what the man formerly known as Prince Andrew is called now. They are suggesting that Fergie could turn to tell-alls as part of her next phase. He wrote a multi-million-pound Fergie Netflix show about the horrid royals could make Harry and Meghan's devastating 6-part series, the highest-rated show for the streamer in 2022, look like a walk in the park on a sunny day. Kinsey, would Fergie do that? Do you think she has got it in her to just air all her dirty laundry?
I mean, look at the parallels between Fergie and Meghan Markle. And throughout Fergie's post-royal life, she's done everything that Meghan Markle has crammed into the last 5 years. She's shameless. Fergie's worked with Oprah Winfrey on multiple productions, including reality TV shows and sit-downs. Fergie's written over 30 books. Some were, lingered in the tell-all world, talking to us about how she borrowed Princess Diana's shoes and they gave her warts. So she's willing to go in the gutter if need be. She's been a podcaster in the past. She tried to bring down the monarchy with Princess Diana when they both planned to leave their husbands at the same time together in the 90s, and Diana backed out. She knows where the bodies are buried, and there will always be more secrets to tell when Fergie's involved. The only thing stopping her is her daughter's royal futures. Watch this space to see how much she's willing to jeopardize that.
Oh, that could be actually fascinating because really Harry and Meghan didn't have much to tell. It was mainly manufactured outrage about supposed racist comments that weren't racist. But like you said, Fergie has got a bit more history and she's got a lot more dirt that she could be releasing. Now, Meghan Markle, talking about her, she's come under fire once again after she posted a grainy video to Instagram of her and a friend along with a very disinterested looking Harry celebrating the Los Angeles Dodgers World Series win. Fans have labelled the video staged and so fake and cringe. Kinsey, if that's staged, then Harry has given up because he gave nothing there.
Harry hates the paparazzi and he married one. I mean, to me, this is fake. Meghan ran around with the competing team's caps on while she lived, her entire time she lived in Canada. She wore the other team's hat. So she can't even show loyalty to a sports team. But my favorite online comment was, imagine a former royal Prince Harry being reduced to being an unpaid extra in his wife's deluded fantasy world. I mean, it's sad. It's so sad.
It's sad because it's true. Kinsey, thank you so much for your time.
This pisses me off. They strip table salt down to 2 minerals, call it healthy, and then
from the bar to politics, don't know how it happened. Par, I'm standing on my stool, for real get to clapping. From the bar to politics, don't know how it happened. AOC in the house. Whoa! Par, I'm standing on my stool, for real get to clapping. From the bar to politics, don't know how it happened.
Wow, check her out.
Make all the drinks before the timer runs out.
It's the AOC Bar Exam Playset. Mix and serve colorful pretend drinks fast. Yes, suit it. Crown time. When she passes the bar, she suits up to rule. Wow, check her out.
Make all the drinks before the timer runs out.
It's the AOC Bar Exam Playset. Mix and serve colorful pretend drinks fast. Yes, suit it. Crown time. When she passes the bar, she suits up to rule. How come you guys won't sign the clean CR so I can have food?
Honey, it's complicated.
This is one of the few leverage times we have.
We need to use it.
How come you guys won't sign the clean?
I'm part Cherokee. Well, not really, but I'll take the scholarship.
We have to save democracy, even if it means the 10% of us have to go against the 80% that voted for him.
All right, I need a plan to smoke that orange guy in the race. What do I got to do?
Push harder and maybe bend the rules.
Let me check. Hey, is it okay if we cheat to win?
Yes, we do what we have to.
All right, I need a plan to smoke.
And ready for the climb of his life?
Whoa,
It's Staring Senior.
Come on, almost there.
Make it to the top without a tumble and he wins the cone.
Whoa, can I have my ice cream now?
Staring Senior with bike cone and 3 crazy steps. Each set sold. And ready for the climb of his life?
Whoa,
It's
almost
Staring
there.
Senior.
Clip right here because I'm just gonna leave this video clip right here because there's a lot of people in this country that most definitely need to see this one.
Blaming the Republicans for the shutdown, but in point of fact, it's the Democrats in the Senate who are refusing to vote for the clean continuing resolution to fund the government for 7 weeks. I mean, that just
just as a point of fact, the way that we have always covered shutdowns is that the party that is not voting for the CR, the continuing resolution to fund the government, is the party that is blocking the government funding and is responsible for the shutdown. That's how we did it. The last time in 2018, 2019, that's the time we did before that during the Obama administration. I mean, it's your party that is refusing in the Senate that is refusing to vote for the continuing resolution.
Hey, so essentially what this means is it's easier to negotiate peace and get along with a foreign terrorist organization than it is to negotiate peace and get along with the Democrats who live in our own country. Okay? That's how screwed we are.
Bunch of white nationalists push Christianity down your throat.
Christianity was in Africa before Europe.
Whoa, did you hear that?
Christianity was in Africa before Europe. Yeah, like Ethiopia. Go ahead, keep going, brother. The Ethiopian Bible is older than the King James. And thank you. That's exactly right. The argument that Christianity brought, that colonialism brought Christianity to Africa is completely wrong. Why is it completely wrong? Because Christianity was already in Africa before Europe. Christianity was in Africa before Europe. Everybody hear that? And one thing you need to know is that Christianity is not a European religion. Whoa, whoa, whoa. One more time. Real loud. Christianity is not a European religion. Man, you're awesome. Christianity is not a white European faith religion. Keep going, brother. I like you. Jesus wasn't white. Jesus was not white.
I go home. Go home, Charlie.
We don't use physical violence. Stop.
Go!
Hey. Don't fight anybody. We don't want to fight. Stop.
Here's the light.
Hey, stop.
Oh! Dumb, stupid. You people chased me because you're evil and you will get what you deserve. I mark it on my face. Take you people chased me because you're evil. And you will get what you deserve. I mark it on my face. Take video. Take all. Take video. Take all the video you need. You're evil people. You're not Christians.
So I have two questions. My first one is, if Jesus fed people for free, taught people for free, and healed people for free, why don't we do the same?
Churches should.
Churches should? Okay. But why can't we do that on a more systemic level through government programs? Hey, maybe private companies with all of their record profits. Why hasn't Elon put up some of his own private money to help end homelessness?
Because homelessness is not a money problem.
Homelessness? Tell that to homeless people. Then.
I have. I say, you know what? Almost every single one of them has either mental problems or drug disorders. It is not a matter of lack of capital. It's that they should either be in an asylum or they're doing hard drugs and they don't want to stop. We have
the
homelessness.
asylums that Ronald Reagan defunded. There are asylums that Ronald Reagan.
Yes, if we want to talk about bringing back asylums, I'm all for that. I have an entire political party I would put in an asylum.
Okay, then we. All right. My second question is about Mahmoud Khalil. He was a legal immigrant with a green card, with a wife and a baby on the way, exercising his free speech rights. So my question is, if legal immigrants aren't safe, then who is?
American citizens.
But he is a green card holder here legally.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter?
Yes, he's not a U.S. citizen.
How does it not matter?
Read the Immigration Naturalization Act. What Mahmoud Khalil did was he went and protested, celebrating the death of Jewish babies, celebrating Hamas in Gaza, and under the Immigration Naturalization Act, it says very clear the Secretary of State can deem somebody who has a green card or a temporary visa holder as a threat to the United States of America and against our geopolitical interests, of which Mahmoud Khalil did and is, and he can go make Turkey great again and go back to his country of origin.
You hate cops just because of the cops? The next time you get in trouble, call a crackhead. God created the world, but everything else is made in China. I don't know why we have to give money to countries that hate us. They should be able to hate us for free. Life is hard, but it's harder when you're stupid. To them, I say unashamedly, they can kiss my ass. Can I take cocaine with my spouse?
No, sir. No, sir.
I did not call Senator Sanders an ignorant slut. It must suck to be that dumb.
We have a repeat offender section. We have a lot of repeat offenders who are still offending.
Sanchez Nicholson has been arrested for murdering a 29-year-old in Charlotte, North Carolina. He's been arrested a mind-boggling 33 times, including 2 attempted murders, only 13 days apart.
2 attempted murders, and they let him go. We have another guy here, David Mazariegos. The judge released him on a $1,000 bond for assault. It was his 33rd arrest. He then robbed and beat an innocent 64-year-old Nicola Tanzi to death at a New York City subway station. And apparently the context there was the old man opened the door for him. So that may be what set him off. And he was out on a $1,000 bail after his 33rd arrest. We have a repeat offender section. We have a lot of repeat offenders who are still offending.
Sanchez Nicholson has been arrested for murdering a 29-year-old. In Charlotte, North Carolina. He's been arrested a mind-boggling 33 times, including 2 attempted murders, only 13 days apart.
2 attempted murders, and they let him go. We have another guy here, David Mazariegos. days apart, 2 attempted murders, and they let him go. We have another guy here, David Mazariegos. The judge released him on a $1,000 bond for assault. It was his 33rd arrest. He then robbed and beat an innocent 64-year-old Nicola Tanzi to death at a New York City subway station. And apparently, the context there was the old man opened the door for him. So that may be what set him off. And he was out on a $1,000 bail after his 33rd arrest, and he beat this nice man up. And he had a bunch of assaults that were felonies that were downgraded to misdemeanors. So that's why crime is down. And Mamdani wants to put him on the bus with you. And then next we have a machete attack. Can you read that?
The New York City machete attack suspect has 45 prior arrests and was charged with hit and run that left cancer survivor dead.
So we need him back out on the streets.
So that's like, what, 150 arrests between all these repeat offenders, right?
Cops must hate this because you're arrested. Arresting like violent, dangerous people, and then you have to arrest them 40 more times?
It's Sisyphus, except instead of rolling a rock up the hill, you're arresting the same violent psychopath in the subway. It's a terrible job.
You'd think, like, all right, the machete guy, we put him away. Whew!
That one's done. He crossed the line.
So you had to deal with him 44 more times after that.
This is exactly why the Democrats are trying to get rid of John Fetterman.
The only Democrat in my family. I know and I love people that voted for President Trump. They are not fascists. They're not Nazis. They're not trying to destroy the Constitution and those things. I refuse to call people Nazis or fascists. I would never compare anybody to Hitler and those things. That kinds of extreme rhetoric is going to continue. We're going to be more likely in resulting in extreme kind of outcomes and political violence like Charlie Kirk. Kinds of extreme rhetoric is going to continue. We're going to be more likely in resulting in extreme kind of outcomes and political violence like Charlie Kirk.
Watch how quickly this Democrat tried to interrupt the minute he gets schooled on the government shutdown.
You got Donald Trump, you got the Republicans in charge, the Republicans in the Senate, and so this argument that the Democrats are blocking things is just unbelievable.
To get something passed in the Senate, you need 60 votes. The first guest on Chris's show was one of those Democrat senators who voted with Republican, but they need 5 more. You got to understand basic civics, how the Congress works. You got to get 60 votes to pass something. You can try to say Chuck Schumer doesn't know what he's doing, but that's not how it works.
I'm about to show you a
Watch how quickly this Democrat tried to interrupt the minute he gets schooled on the government shutdown.
You got Donald Trump, you got the Republicans in charge, the Republicans in the Senate, and so this argument that the Democrats are blocking things is just unbelievable.
unbelievable to get something passed. In charge, the Republicans. Of the Senate, and so this argument that the Democrats are blocking things is just unbelievable. To get something passed in the Senate, you need 60 votes. The first guest on Chris's show was one of those Democrat senators who voted with Republican, but they need 5 more. You got to understand basic civics, how the Congress works. You got to get 60 votes. You can do this. You can try to say Chuck Schumer doesn't know what he's doing, but that's not how it works.
I'm about to show you a.
Senator Kennedy once again proves he could make common sense sound this hilarious.
You know what the American people are thinking right now? They're thinking that the brain is an amazing organ. It starts working in a mother's womb, and it doesn't stop working until you get elected to Congress.
Ted Cruz just gave Bill Maher a complete reality check.
Do Republicans have a good answer to address the border crisis other than busing migrants to liberal cities?
We had an agreement with Mexico that was called the Remain in Mexico Agreement, which says that if someone crossed into Mexico illegally from typically Central or South America, they would remain in Mexico while their asylum case was proceeding in the U.S., and the numbers plummeted. We had the lowest rate, as I said, in 45 years, and then Biden came in and ripped that international agreement to shreds, and that's what produced now 8.4 million illegal aliens since Biden's been president.
Boy, I walked right into that one, didn't I?
People are protesting Americans being zip-tied, being detained without having their rights protected. I'm not saying that is not who is that is not the Democratic Party saying that let all illegal people or criminals run free. That is not what the Democratic Party is saying.
Those are the policies. Those are
the way that prisons are set up in our society, I would argue that they do not work. They do not make us safer. The instinct is to just take that person, the source of that harm, the source of that issue, and then just throw them away. Put them in a cage and throw away the key. That doesn't address the reason why that harm was created in the first place. A lot of times, people who create trauma for others are those who themselves went through trauma earlier in their own lives.
Right.
And I bring all of this up to say that, again, like when we talk about policing, I don't think the system actually makes us safer. I think what it does is it just removes problems out of view.
Another one of the greatest hits of Zohran Mamdani maintaining prisons don't work. They just take people who are dangerous and get them out of the way, which of course is the point of a prison. It's to take someone who has offended and is very likely to offend again and incarcerating this person so he can't hurt anyone else while he is in jail. Common sense says this works. Research says this works.
People are protesting Americans being zip-tied, being detained without having their rights protected. I'm not saying that is not that is not the Democratic Party saying that let all illegal people or criminals run free. That is not what what the Democratic
Those
Party
are the
is
policies.
saying.
Those are your.
No,
those are the,
they are not.
I mean, you
No,
have
they are not. Those
prosecutors
are-
and judges all over this
No.
country that have let violent criminal after violent criminal out on the streets. And then what do? They commit other violent crimes in city
what does
after
that
city
have
after
to do
city.
with-
I have no problem with people protesting peacefully. I mean, you
No,
have
they are not. Those
prosecutors
are-
and judges all over this
No.
country that have let violent criminal after violent criminal out on the streets. And then what do? They commit other violent crimes in city
what does
after
that
city
have
after
to do
city.
with-
I have no problem with people. Criminal out on the streets. And then what do? They commit other violent crimes in city
what does
after
that
city
have
after
to do
city.
with-
I have no problem with people protesting peacefully. They have every right to do that. I do think
Well,
it's
then
legitimate.
why demonize them?
Because I think it's a legitimate political
it's
debate
not-
about
why
what they're
is it leg-
protesting for. Perfectly legitimate political debate for Republicans to say, what exactly are they protesting? They are mad that Donald Trump is enforcing federal immigration law. They are mad that he is lawfully exercising the powers of the presidency. And they are fighting for policies that Republicans fundamentally believe are bad for the country.
You cannot reason with this level of nonsense.
This MAGA Republic.
Nonsense.
I don't think anybody in this debate can name me a high-ranking elected Democrat who has called Donald Trump Hitler.
October
Last
of
October.
2024, Kamala Harris said on the campaign trail, Donald Trump vowed to be a dictator on day one. His former chief of staff said he wanted generals like Hitler's. Donald Trump openly admires dictators, including Adolf Hitler. Last October, that was said on the campaign trail from the Democrat.
Kamala Harris said this
Yeah.
during the campaign, during the closing days
exactly.
of the campaign.
Of nonsense.
I don't think anybody in this debate can name me a high-ranking elected Democrat who has called Donald Trump Hitler. Trump Hitler.
October
Last
of 2024, Kamala Harris said on the campaign trail, Donald Trump vowed to be a dictator on day one. His former chief of staff said he wanted generals like Hitler's. Donald Trump openly admires dictators, including Adolf Hitler. Last October, that was said on the campaign trail from the Democrat
Kamala Harris said this during the campaign, during the closing days of the campaign. It was her final campaign pitch. Is that high enough ranking for you? You guys, you supported her for president.
Exactly, because there have been
But
reports
the person
that Donald Trump.
For president.
Exactly, because there have been
But
reports
the person
that Donald
that you
Trump
supported
had.
for president is someone
just relax,
who was
Jack.
campaigning
Take a
by
breather.
calling Trump Hitler. You're
Breather,
so
Jack.
disingenuous when you bring this stuff up. You
Wait,
can't
guys,
even acknowledge the fact that your own candidate was on
relax.
the campaign. She got a
Stop.
video about it. It's on her Facebook.
Because there have been
But the
reports that
person that
Donald
you
Trump
supported
had.
for president is someone
just relax,
who was
Jack.
campaigning
Take a
by
breather.
calling Trump Hitler. You're
Breather,
so
Jack.
disingenuous when you bring this stuff up. You
Wait,
can't
guys,
even acknowledge the fact that your own candidate was on
relax.
the campaign. She got a
Stop.
video about it. It's on her Facebook, or it's on her Twitter page.
She spoke pure truth, and no one could deny it.
You cannot reason with it.
She spoke pure truth, and no one could deny it.
Why are Republicans covering for Trump when he does something like this, saying these people are a joke, they're not indicative of America, and then he has this video?
Well, I want to start by saying ICE protests were overwhelmingly white. They were overwhelmingly elderly people. Now, again, you know, white boomers have the right to have a mass therapy session. About the fact that Donald Trump won. But to call it a no kings protest, to act like he is a king, is so utterly preposterous. This is a man who won the popular vote, who is enacting the exact agenda he promised he was going to enact. So it was actually a protest of democracy, all of which is to say the only way to greet such a preposterous proposition Calling this a no kings rally when it's actually an anti-democracy rally is to crap on it, basically make fun of it. And I think that that has been the Trump administration's approach. They didn't try to stop it, God forbid, because he's not a king. They allowed them to have their say, they allowed them to go out there, and then they made fun of them.
For some people, the best way to get back on your feet is to get off your ass. God created the world, but everything else is made in China. The brain is an amazing organ. It starts working in a mother's womb, and it doesn't stop working until you get elected to Congress. Now, to answer your question, even duct tape can't fix stupid. Anybody who votes for any of these bills without seeing the fine print is like a rock, only dumb. As I've said about her before, I think she's the reason there are directions on a shampoo bottle. When you have hypothermia, you don't strip naked and run in the snow. Right. Tariffs are like whiskey. A little whiskey under the right circumstances can be refreshing. Too much whiskey under the wrong circumstances, and you end up drunk as a goat.
The Oxford Debating Society has voted to oust its incoming president, and this is after he celebrated the murder of Charlie Kirk. Now, more than the required, I should say, 2/3 of voters supported the no confidence. Measure against the president-elect. And let's just look at who this guy is, because old vision has surfaced where he essentially called for the right to be taken out by any means necessary. Look at this.
To effectively create change in the world we desire. And Side Prop will argue that at times there is simply nothing else that can be required other than violent retaliation. And this is a view I wholeheartedly agree with. The view that some institutions are too broken, too regressive, too oppressive to be reformed. Like cancers of our society, they must and they should be taken down by any means necessary.
CJ, can I get your reaction that he's now been voted out?
Well, thank God for these, students and these young people actually showing some leadership and holding him accountable. But I gotta tell you that this is disgusting, and these videos, while they may be news to us, they weren't news to the people that elected them. And for them to have voted him in knowing that he had harbored these opinions and these thoughts about political violence in his country across the world is disgusting, and an indictment upon the higher education system, not just here in the U.S., because of course he's over there in the U.K., but really around the world. This virus has spread internationally now. But what I'll say about this is that oftentimes the reason I push back so forcefully when those on the left say this is a both sides issue, you don't hear people on the right talking like this, right? Charlie Kirk, you want to say that, sometimes violence is the only response to something that's oppressive. What was oppressive about anything that Charlie Kirk ever did? Was it oppressive or violent? He believed there were only two genders. Was it oppressive or violent? He believed that America was a great country worthy of being defended. Was it oppressive or violent that he believed that America's next generation should be able to have a free discourse of ideas in accordance with the free speech ideals that America is built upon? What was oppressive about that? What was violent about that? I will tell you what was oppressive is putting a bullet into the neck of your political opponent because he hurt your feelings. That is the type of evil that those on the left are defending here in this country today. That is the type of evil that those across the world are defending on the left here today.
Here, let's watch this because it's so funny.
And then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away, so stop with the continuous lying about this stuff.
24 hours later.
We want to ban assault weapons, and they want to ban books.
This Democrat politician was asked about insider trading, and her reaction says it all.
I don't hold individual stocks.
So when Newsmax claims that you made $7 million from stock trades, what are they talking about?
Newsmax is, first of all, a very questionable organization that is paying multiple fines. I'm not sure what they're talking about. Both my husband and I come from very middle-class families.
Well, did you make $7 million in stock trades at all? Or?
I haven't. I don't believe I did, but I'd have to go see.
This MAGA politician was asked about insider trading, and her reaction says it all.
I don't hold individual stocks.
So when Newsmax claims that you made $7 million from stock trades, what are they talking about?
Newsmax is, first of all, a very questionable organization that is paying multiple fines. I'm not sure what they're talking about. Both my husband and I come from very middle-class families.
Well, did you make $7 million in stock trades at all? Or?
I haven't. I don't believe I did, but I'd have to go see what that was alluding to.
A CNN host basically gets destroyed by one Arnold Schwarzenegger. Watch.
This all started because of redistricting in Texas. Do you believe that the Republican Party is starting this? This all started because
basically gets destroyed by one Arnold Schwarzenegger. Watch. One Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arnold Schwarzenegger. Watch.
This all started
Watch.
This all started because of redistricting in Texas. Do you believe that the Republican Party is starting this?
No, Jake. There has been gerrymandering going on for 200 years. Such extreme gerrymandering going on that in a state like Massachusetts, it has like 40% of the people voting for Trump. The Republican Party has 0 representatives sent to the House. Crazy gerrymandering going on all over the country, and we wanted to try to stop it in California.
Yes. In other words, nothing new.
I was embarrassing myself in front of my mother-in-law until this $20 knife changed everything. So I met...
Just so that everybody can get the lay of the land. So SNAP, what is it? It's called the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. And there are no benefits after November 1st unless there's a change here. Let's just show you how many people are on assistance. Okay, we have 40. What is it? It's called the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. And there are no benefits after November 1st unless there's a change here. Let's just show you how many people are on assistance. Okay, we have 42 million Americans. That's 1 in 8. That might be a discussion for another time as to what we can do about that. 73% of SNAP households at or below the poverty level. Almost 80% households include a child a senior, or a disabled person, and $332. That's the average household benefit, okay? So imagine all of a sudden, on November 1st, you have one of these households and you are not going to have that. Let's look at a map here. The percent of households receiving SNAP benefits, if you look at the dark red, that's where you have more than 30%. Someplace like Wyoming, my home state, 10%. That's not a lot, but it's not a highly populated state. But you can look at some of these places around here and in the southeast where this is really going to take a bite out of people's budget, and they don't have a lot spare. Senator Markwayne Mullin is a Republican of Oklahoma, and sir, I just learned it was 16.8% of people in Oklahoma are on SNAP benefits. So you know this personally and well,
Right.
and I'm sure you are concerned for those people and that anxiety that builds up for them as they think about how they're going to make ends meet and feed their families. Over to you.
Dana, we have a lot of tribes, obviously, in our state, and so we have a lot of reservations. I'm Cherokee myself. When I was younger and we had 7 of us kids at home, we were on what they call commodities, which is a form of SNAP program, and it's a helping hand for a lot of these people in rural areas and reservations that may not have the same economic opportunities as some metropolitan areas. And so it is, I wouldn't say disproportionately high, but it is high throughout the state. And it's ridiculous that, as Kathleen Clark, the number 2 ranking Democrat in the House, said that they understand families are suffering, but, quote, it's their only leverage point. They're using American people for leverage because of political gain. So we're not talking about, Dana, policy. There's no policy discussion here. This is all about a leverage point for political purposes. And that's really hard to negotiate on. The only thing we're asking them to do is reopen the government on a clean CR that Chuck Schumer wrote when he was leader of the Senate back in September. We're not asking them to vote on anything they haven't voted for before either. They voted on this in September. They passed it. They voted for it. The Democrats, all of them voted for it in December. They passed it. They voted for it in January, and they voted for it again in March. What's changed is the political environment. Their base demanded that they shut down the government, and they shut it down, and now they're looking to play the blame game and try to pin it on Republicans or try to pin it on the president, when even CNN's own poll shows that they're losing at that argument because American people aren't fools, but they play them like they are.
Well, I mean, just to follow up on Dana's point, I don't know how we ended up with 1 in 8 million Americans with
That's right.
supplemental benefits. I don't know how that happened.
Well, Biden economics.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, you think about it. You had inflation at 9.45 as a high when Biden was in office. You had you had take-home pay drop. You had wages drop. You saw prices soar because of inflation, and we're just now getting those numbers back to where they need to be because President Trump has brought the economy back. You'll see those individuals transition off as jobs come back, as manufacturing jobs come back with middle-class livable wages. You'll see those programs be less dependable or less desirable for those that have more income coming into their house.
Okay, so it's SNAP Food Aid, it's Head Start, it's air traffic control, essential air travel, also military pay. Here's the Vice President on that, J.D. Vance.
Yes, we believe that we can continue to pay the troops on Friday. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to pay everybody because we've been handed a very bad hand by the Democrats. This is one of the reasons why you've seen some layoffs in the federal workforce. We do think that we can continue paying the troops, at least for now. But we've got food stamp benefits that are set to run out in a week. We're trying to keep as much open as possible. We just need the Democrats to actually help us out.
So I know there's a way to move around money for a lot of these programs, and some of that's happening right now. But on the Senate side behind the scenes, can you report today whether or not there is any movement on negotiations?
No, we have lost movement about 9 days ago with the Democrats. Their demands are still the same: $1.5 trillion to reopen the government, to bring back the fraud, waste, and abuse that one big beautiful bill cut out, and give illegal immigrants health care again. That's not a talking point. That literally is what they're wanting to do. For us, a lot of people have questions, why can't the president move the money? Why, if he can pay the troops, why can't he fund these programs? Within the Department of War, we always give flexibility for the Department of War to flex just in case of times of war and uncertainty. And so there's a chunk of money that gives them flexibility through the USDA and the SNAP program. It's line item appropriation. It's directly related for that, and they cannot move funds in those areas unless Congress gives consent. The Senate won't even pay essential employees right now. Well, the Republicans will, but the Democrats won't even vote to pay essential employees, much less allow those benefits to move. And we wouldn't have to do this, honestly, if they would just simply vote to reopen the government on a clean CR that they wrote. I mean, it's that simple. We could get this whole problem solved today in 5 minutes if they would vote for a clean CR.
And the federal union that is very liberal leaning and supports Democrats said that to the Democrats, get to the table, vote for this, and move on. But
that's right.
So far, the Democrats resisting. Senator, thank you, and we will see you again soon.
Dana, Bill, thank you so much.
Yeah, you bet. We'll talk again very soon.
Hey, it's Will Kane. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Kane podcast for full episodes right now.
Build a website.
JD Vance just roasted Hassan zapping his dog.
He has this command place, which is basically if I snap my finger and point, he will run to that place and lay down.
You don't have to zap him.
No, no.
Hassan.
Not like Hassan Piker. No. No. He will run to that place and lay down.
You don't have to zap him.
No, no.
Hassan.
Not like Hassan Piker. No. No electrocution of dogs here.
How disgusting is that? What does that tell you about a person?
Well, I think it tells you that they're bad people.
Yes.
If you can actually cause suffering to an innocent animal, you're probably the kind of person who doesn't worry about suffering in people as well.
Yeah.
And that's been my experience. If you mistreat dogs, that's almost 100% sign that you're going to be a really terrible person. So
facts.
This lady came with facts, not feelings, and the CNN panel had no comeback.
To call Trump Hitler is to call over 80 million Americans, 35% of Jewish Americans, 56% of Hispanic men, and the majority of Americans who make under $100,000 a year, because those are the people who gave Donald Trump his victory. And I just have a pro tip for any Democrats who are thinking about winning back the working class, those people who make under $100,000 a year, who a majority of whom voted for Trump. You should have a visceral disgust for someone like Larry David, who's worth $400 million, sitting there and smearing the hardest working Americans for refusing to co-sign their own disinheritance. That's effectively what they are doing, and it just has to stop.
So the best way to get something done, if you hold near and dear to you that you like to be able to anyway. Hey everyone, I'm Joe Biden's government.
And ready for the climb of his life? It's Staring Senior. Make it to the top without a tumble and he wins the cone.
Whoa, can I have my ice cream now?
Staring Senior with bike cone and 3 crazy steps. Each set sold.
So the best way to get something done, if you hold near.
What's your elevator pitch to New Yorkers why they should vote for you?
Well, as you can see, I came out of the subways. I'm taking the ferry. I'm the mass transit mayor. That's the one thing that unites us. Most New Yorkers take the subways, the buses, the express buses, the speed ferries, or in this case, the Staten Island ferry every day. 6 million. I have a bond with them. Zoran Mandami occasionally, and Andrew Cuomo never, because he's too busy up in the suites with his billionaire friends. So I'm the working class mayor, and I represent their interests, even if they're not supporting me.
Why haven't you dropped out?
They bribed me $10 million to drop out, and I said, oh no, it's not only unethical, that's illegal. So then they couldn't bribe me, so then they threatened to kill me and my wife. Now I have, for the first time in my life, armed security. I never had armed security. Now I have to have armed security. So they think, these billionaires, these insiders and influencers, they think they're going to pick the next mayor. Guess what? I trust the people. The people vote. That's what democracy is about. One person, one vote. And we'll see who they pick on November 4th, and I believe it'll be me.
And click right here for the rest of the video.
So it turns out the phone companies, they just rolled over and played dead. They turned over all of those records, like 30 million phone records, to Jack Smith. And anybody asking? Senator Kennedy's not having it.
But the phone company and the general counsel for the phone company, or companies, if there were more than one involved, could say, you know, this is serious as an aneurysm. This is serious as 4 heart attacks and a stroke.
It is.
This is a sitting United States senator. So general counsel would likely advise the CEO, well, you need to file a motion to quash.
Senator, typically phone companies follow a subpoena from a United States attorney.
No, they do, but they don't have to.
They could challenge it, Senator.
Yeah. Or maybe they should have gone to Amazon and buy some testicles online.
Maybe they should have.
All right, guys, I just want to announce I'm Primetime 99 Alex Stein, and I love y'all, even though you guys don't love me, and I know you guys probably love children a little too much, but I'm very empathetic to you guys. I love you guys. Even these guys with the guns, I feel sorry that you guys were probably abused as children, and I really hope you guys get the mental health care that you guys deserve. I love you guys. God bless you all.
You won't believe this Democrat just said this about our own party.
I'm done with us protecting people who would buy and abuse our children. I'm done. I don't want to send more black and brown men to prison. I don't want more people in prison, but I don't want people buying girls. And I'm tired of saying it's okay and that we have to protect the men who do it. As a mental health professional and as a social worker,